So we are wading into a pretty divisive and messy topic today. Boy, oh boy, we are talking about this whole controversy and just completely insane banana situation around Bayonetta 3 and the original voice actress for Bayonetta who performed the character in Bayonetta's 1 and 2, and the paltry and offensive amount of money she was offered to come back for Bayonetta 3, and of course, her coming clean about it on Twitter through a series of videos. So obviously I've sat on this story for about a day, and so I don't probably need to recap too much of the main details, and I definitely know that I don't need to play you the actual videos and the audio of the videos of what Bayonetta voice actress Helena Taylor had to say about what happened to her, because this story was everywhere. These 4 videos she posted on Twitter yesterday out of nowhere, only weeks before Bayonetta 3 even launched, has like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 million or some odd views. I mean, this story has gotten huge. It was picked up by mainstream media like TMZ and IGN and whatnot. It's insane. This really is an eye-opening scenario, and it really sucks to see, but I also have some issues with maybe how it was handled in some ways. And so I know that I'm maybe opening myself up to a whole bunch of backlash from people who feel one way and the other people who feel the other way. But I did want to weigh in a little bit about how I kind of perceive this situation, what I think it exposes about voice actors and especially Platinum Games' overall business model, how she was wronged, but how I think her approach was maybe not the best, and all the messy stuff in between. So obviously the elevator pitch version of this whole situation is that Helena Taylor, who was the original voice actress for Bayonetta in Bayonetta's 1 and 2, and I believe also did the voices for her in the Smash Brothers games that she appeared in as well, she was offered only $4,000 as a flat rate, apparently. No residuals, no licensing, no extra money based off of merchandising and whatnot. $4,000 to come back for Bayonetta 3, which is just not a lot of money and not a livable wage. And she then didn't accept the job, of course. She felt very offended by that amount, as she should, because that's disgusting that they would offer somebody to come back and play that role again for so little money. And so instead, it actually went to a very well-known and legendary voice actress whose name is Jennifer Hale. She's great. She did voices in games like Mass Effect and also Metroid Prime 3. I think people don't know that she voiced, I guess, Samus's grunts and whatnot in Metroid Prime 3, which I think is kind of interesting. And so Helena Taylor passed. She was offended by the amount. Jennifer Hale took it over. And so now with Bayonetta 3 only weeks away, it's very exciting because I think the game looks fan-freaking-tastic. I know it's going to be amazing. But then Helena Taylor decided, again, just weeks before the game was going to release, to come clean about it. She told the story about writing Hideki Kamiya, who, of course, is like one of the main guys over at Platinum Games and has been for a very long time. And he was very gracious to her and wanted her to come back, but they still only offered her that amount of money. And she feels like it was a problem, which, again, she should. I in no way support the way that Platinum Games and Kamiya has overall approached this. But when she came clean, it seems like she maybe broke an NDA about her not being able to say this. And it's got a lot of people mad and up in arms, and I am mad for her as well. It is not right at all. And then she went on to claim that people should boycott the game, which is where things get a little bit messier. In my opinion, once you go down the road of asking people to boycott something in a scenario like this, it's very tricky because I think it depends on the crime, quote unquote. We're going to call it a crime. It's not a real crime. No laws were broken. She even said so. But the crime or the offense, the inciting incident, it goes down to what that inciting incident was and if it's worthy of a boycott. And if it's in a gray area of boycotting, like I think this falls in, once she asks everyone to boycott the game, it's suddenly this backhanded way of applying guilt to those people who choose not to boycott and drawing a weird nebulous line in the sand saying, if you don't boycott this game, then you don't stand with me and how I was wronged. And I don't agree with that because I think it's okay for someone to choose to boycott or not to boycott the game, but also still stand with her right to come clean, the fact that she was wronged, and I absolutely think she was wronged, and I think most of you and most of the internet does, but you can also still maybe choose to want to buy the game because the new voice actress, Jennifer Hale, did nothing wrong here. She deserves credit for what she stepped in and done, as well as everyone else who voice acted in the game and everyone else who developed the game. It's just a scenario where, does the punishment fit the crime? That's what I apply to a scenario like this. And I'm going to be completely honest and transparent with you guys. I do not think boycotting Bayonetta 3 fits the crime at hand. But of course, what is the crime at hand? We do need to revisit that a little bit before we get into some of the more nuanced elements of this conversation. And as I already said, the crime at hand is that this actress who brought this legendary character Bayonetta to life is worth so much more money than $4,000 for a one-off job, as if she's a nobody coming off of the street. That's not how you should treat someone who's known for being this character, a character that we love in a very successful franchise. She claims that the Bayonetta games or the Bayonetta IP has made like $450 million, I think, in total revenue. I don't know if it could really be that high. I mean, the first two games across multiple platforms definitely have sold, a couple of million copies, and there's not a ton of Bayonetta merchandise out there, but there's some Bayonetta merchandise. Maybe she's kind of roping in the fact that she did also voice Bayonetta in 3 Smash Brothers games, right? Because she's in Smash for Wii U, Smash for 3DS, and Smash Ultimate. And we know Smash Ultimate specifically sold a ton of copies. So we don't know if that $450 million is true or not, but it's definitely like maybe a couple of $100 million. It's a huge franchise, and this character is very beloved. And she did an amazing job. When we think of Bayonetta, without even knowing who Helena Taylor is, we think of Bayonetta's character, her voice, her performance, the way she acts, her mannerisms. And a huge, massive chunk of that identity of Bayonetta is owed to Helena Taylor. She's done a great job, and here's the thing. I don't know what the standard pay for voice acting in gaming or in movies or in anime and cartoons and whatnot is, but I do know on the Hollywood side it's a lot more money than probably the gaming side. And I think that that's a shame. There's been people and folks who voice characters like in Breath of the Wild, for example, saying that they were also underpaid. So this is clearly an industry-wide problem, and it's why speaking out about this was a brave thing to do, and it was an important thing to do. We are now talking about it more than ever because of this, and Platinum Games and Nintendo's feet are being appropriately held to the fire, as they should. This is not okay. And so when we look at Helena Taylor specifically, I don't know what the standard going rate is, but I have to think it's way more than $4,000 for her situation specifically. The person who is Bayonetta, who brought us Bayonetta, who killed it in her first 2 performances, and I think there was like a Bayonetta anime or something. You guys tell me, am I making that up? Is my brain creating a product that doesn't exist? Or like a CG movie or something? I don't know. But between the games and the Smash Brothers stuff, she has done an amazing job. And if you're going to bring in a first-timer, I don't know, maybe $4,000 for like a one-off job for a first-timer could make a little bit more sense. But as she says in her video, she's like classically trained and has like theater and schooling training. And she just is the character. And there is value to the person who has always been the voice or the performer or the steward of a character having a little bit more value, that name recognition. Just like Jennifer Hale, who replaced her, has her own level of name recognition as being a legendary voice actress, Helena Taylor as Bayonetta has that as well. And so $4,000, man, I don't even care what the going rate is. I'm just going to say this right now. I don't care what the going rate is. She definitely deserves way more than $4,000. She talked about the economic status, about where she lives and her own personal situation, and clearly $4,000 isn't livable, and she should have been paid and offered more. It is insulting that Platinum Games and Hideki Kamiya and Nintendo as the overall backer of this project couldn't have come forward with something better, or listen to her cries for negotiation that I'm worth more than this. I passed your second audition. I am this character. I have been this character. I am owed more than this. I would even have to wager that they may be paid, and I don't know this, so, don't come after me. I'm just guessing here. I bet that they paid Jennifer Hale more than $4,000 to come and play this role. And if they didn't, they should have offered her more money as well, just like they should have offered Helena Taylor more. So it's just a really gross, ugly scenario. I can't support voice actors getting underpaid, and I definitely can't support Helena Taylor getting offered such a gross pittance compared to what she's obviously worth. Platinum and Nintendo have messed up big time and dropped the ball, and it's insulting to us, the fans, and it's definitely insulting to Helena Taylor and other voice actors out there. I also want to talk about what she said about Jennifer Hale, the new voice actress, because I basically split this whole thing about what she did into two sides. On one side, there's the inciting event, the crime, so to speak, of we're going to offer you, the legendary returning voice actress for this legendary character in this huge game, a paltry, measly, offensive, and immoral $4,000 flat rate. No one could live off of that. It's super not okay. And it's very, to me, it's a very offensive thing for Platinum Games and Kamiya and even Nintendo to have done. I put some blame on Nintendo for not being part of the overall business and willing to maybe foot the bill and support her coming back to the role. She even admitted she had to re-audition and pass with flying colors, and they still wanted her to come back. She is your Bayonetta, or at least she was until this happened and she turned it down. So offer her something appropriate. It just was so not okay. So on one side, you have what happened to her, the fact that it was wrong, and I absolutely support her speaking up. I don't want to get into the NDA situation because we don't know the details there. But she spoke up in defense of herself and said what she felt was wrong, and I agree. What happened to her was wrong. She should speak up. Voice actors in the gaming industry should make more money. And that is a good thing that I think most of us, if not all of us, support her on. Now, my personal opinion is I think calling for the boycott was maybe not the best approach. It puts people in an awkward position. I don't think that this, again, crime is so offensive that it necessarily requires a boycott. To her credit, she said boycott the game and give the money to charity. So, you know, that's a good thing, and I like that. And then the other thing she did that I don't agree with is the way she spoke about Jennifer Hale. Because Jennifer Hale, and she was kind to her. She did say, you know, and I'm paraphrasing, and I'll link to the videos, even though I know you guys have seen them at this point, but she was like, I support her. I'm sure she's wonderful. I wish her success. I wish all my fellow voice actors success. So she wasn't specifically mean to Jennifer Hale, but after she said that, she went on to say some stuff that I in no way support, and I don't think came off very well. I don't think it's a good look for her. When she said that Jennifer Hale, and I'm going to paraphrase again, like has no right to the character or isn't the real Bayonetta, and didn't like the idea that she would maybe sign merchandise as the Bayonetta's voice actress, and something to that effect. And none of that sat right with me. I support Helena Taylor. She should have spoken out. She deserved more of an offer. Platinum Games and Kamiya were completely in the wrong on the business end of things. And to a small degree, Nintendo as well. That whole thing is 100% she was right on, and we should be paying attention, and we should be fighting that fight for her. And alongside of her, I agree. But the way she talked about Jennifer Hale and saying she had no right to, like, sign autographs and whatnot, and that she's like, it's my Bayonetta, I own Bayonetta XYZ. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I just don't agree with that because, you know, we can see an actor or a voice actor as the owner of a character or a steward of the character. And I think in most instances that can be true. Like, you know, Mark Hamill, for example, is Luke Skywalker. You could say Luke Skywalker is his because he, along with George Lucas, together molded and shaped that character. And it's a combination of George Lucas's writing and storytelling and Mark Hamill's performance that is Luke Skywalker. But you could still have Luke Skywalker performed by other people in different ways, like in an animated form or the way they brought him back with special effects and de-aging and stuff, like in The Mandalorian and whatnot. And yes, he did the voice acting and did perform on set, but also someone else was there doing a younger version, and it was this collaboration thing. And I just, you know, you could apply that to so many different things. And like the actors in many ways are the characters we know and love them as, but they don't truly own them. You know, like a character like a Luke Skywalker or like a Gandalf from Lord of the Rings or a Bayonetta or a Nathan Drake, right? Voiced by Nolan North. Yes, they're known as these actors that portray them, but they're also owned by the companies that created them. And from a business and legal sense, it's no fun to talk about these things from that perspective. But from a business and legal perspective, they're owned by the respective companies that created the characters. The actors are just the performers bringing them to life. And I give great credit to that, but it's not as black and white as I think Helena Taylor is making it sound. And I think she should have been offered more money, and she should be still performing as Bayonetta. But Jennifer Hale stepping in is still worthy of owning her performance in Bayonetta 3 as Bayonetta. And I think has the right to say, I'm Bayonetta in Bayonetta 3. Oh, you have a Bayonetta product you want me to sign? I can sign it because I was Bayonetta in one of the games. To me, that is completely okay. Another Star Wars comparison I'll make is Hayden Christensen, who played Anakin Skywalker, who is also Darth Vader, right? It's like a dual role where Anakin and Darth Vader are like the same person. We all know this. In my opinion, here's the thing. Darth Vader in the original trilogy was performed voice-wise by James Earl Jones and was performed on set by Anthony Prowse, or David Prowse, excuse me, Anthony. I was confusing him with Anthony Daniels, who is C-3PO. David Prowse. So the body was David Prowse, the voice was James Earl Jones, right? Okay, so that's the original trilogy, two people who are Darth Vader. But Hayden Christensen in the prequel trilogy performed that same character, Darth Vader / Anakin Skywalker, in 3 completely separate movies. Does Hayden Christensen not have the right to say, I am also Darth Vader, along with James Earl Jones? James Earl Jones can sign merchandise as Darth Vader. Hayden Christensen can sign merchandise as Darth Vader. No one in their right minds would disagree with that. Even people who don't like the prequel trilogy or even like Hayden as Darth Vader, I don't even think the biggest haters would say he doesn't have the right to sign autographs as that character. He absolutely does. And so this is like a tangent that's also related. Jennifer Hale, in my opinion, can sign autographs and has shared ownership of Bayonetta now because she has performed Bayonetta in a game, just like Helena Taylor has the same right. So whereas I stand with Helena Taylor speaking out, and she was wronged, and I'm very upset with Kamiya and Platinum Games for this, I don't think she really was in the right to go after Jennifer Hale the way she does. Which also goes back to the boycott thing, and I don't like the guilt-tripping, virtue-signaling nature of saying, I urge you to boycott the game. If people choose to boycott, that's completely okay, and in many cases it might be seen as warranted, and that's fine. But I don't like that call to action for a scenario like this because it just doesn't feel right to me. Again, I bring it back to the punishment fitting the crime. And so I'm only going to speak from my own perspective for a minute, okay? We all have different feelings about this. Emotions are very high around this topic, as they should be. Because again, overall, Helena Taylor was right to speak out, and I hate what happened to her. I know I've said that a couple of times, but I want to keep reminding everyone of that throughout this video and this conversation. But it goes back to the punishment fitting the crime. So from my personal perspective and my personal beliefs and views, I think that a boycottable offense is not the original actress being offered a low sum of money and her choosing to turn it down, okay? Even if the company was wrong to do it, she even said so in her video, what they did was not illegal. It was only immoral. And I don't like what they morally did. I think it was morally wrong, but I don't think it's a boycottable offense. To me, a boycottable offense is a Bill Cosby room from Activision. It is a Harvey Weinstein scenario. Those, to me, are boycottable offenses. Actual, tangible, physical harm, sexual harassment harm, that kind of stuff, to me, is boycottable. This situation is bad, and Platinum Games and Kamiya deserve all the flack they're getting, and I think that they're going to have to address the situation and do better. Even if they can legally go after her for breaking an NDA, which sucks, and I'm kind of scared for her for that, because I think she was right to speak up. At the end of the day, I don't personally draw the boycott line at this scenario. Does that make sense? I also support anyone who chooses to boycott it, and I know why when she made those videos, and she's very emotional about it, understandably. I understand why she maybe wanted to do it in the moment, but it just doesn't feel like something for me that is boycottable, you know? So, I mean, I'm going to play the game. I right now have my special edition. I was able to get a special edition pre-ordered from Amazon, and I love the Bayonetta series. Bayonetta 2 is one of my favorite games ever created. It's my favorite game on the Wii U. I am so excited for Bayonetta 3. Some people have questioned whether or not it looks good. Not me. I think it's looked fantastic ever since I've seen it. I love everything I've seen. I know the frame rate is a little in question, and so I hope that that stays okay, but I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. And I haven't seen anything that tells me I don't need to play this game, you know? Again, If you don't want to play this game because you feel this is a stance you want to make, I think that's great, and I support you. I will support Helena Taylor in the ways that make sense to me, but not buying this game and not playing a game in a series I love based on this situation doesn't sit right with me. So it's not my personal choice to boycott the game. I'm buying and playing the game, and maybe this makes people mad at me and whatever, but I don't really care because it just doesn't feel like that kind of a scenario to me. But I'll end this by reminding everyone that I think we all agree that what happened to her was wrong. I think it exposes a big problem in the industry. It exposes a big problem with voice actors. It exposes a huge problem with Platinum Games, and especially with Hideki Kamiya. That guy is a freaking clown, blocking everyone because they don't tweet in his language. And even though he clearly speaks it, or at least enough, I mean, it's not like he can't read or speak it, I believe. Maybe he has someone else who tweets in his English tweets for him, but I don't know if that's true. Because he does speak English. I've heard interviews with him, and so it's like, I mean, you have that right, but it just is very foolish, bullying, ugly behavior. And then he went on a blocking tirade so extreme yesterday because he couldn't handle it. Twitter suspended his account. That is so embarrassing for this man. He is a freaking fool. He is an utter buffoon. Hey guys, so there actually was an update when I was editing this video, and apparently it's being reported that as of this morning, after I finished recording this, Hideki Kamiya actually deleted his Twitter account. It no longer exists at all, which is really crazy and adds a whole different element to this conversation and his perspective and his position in Platinum Games and Nintendo's position. And unfortunately, because I've already made the majority of the conversation, I'm not going to get into it here. I just wanted to add this update because I was more talking about how he was temporarily suspended for blocking, but apparently he's now made a new decision to just delete the account altogether. Not a great look, and so yeah, now you know. And so I love Platinum Games as a developer. Their product is amazing. I love every Platinum Games game I've ever played. I know they've made some duds, like I think the TMNT game a few years ago, but I never played that one. But all the games I've played, which include the Bayonetta games, they're amazing. I love the studio. So I just feel like this is a situation where they need to correct themselves. He needs to pull his head out of his ass and stop smelling his own farts, because that's what the guy's been doing on Twitter for years, and everyone's allowed it and thought it was quirky. I thought it was just a thing that he did that was like dumb and annoying, and I didn't like it. I didn't realize it was really indicative of other larger problems with him and maybe even with Platinum. And then seeing what them and Nintendo did by not offering Helena Taylor a proper wage is just really, again, it's immoral and it's offensive. It's not illegal. She said that as well, but it's just bad. So that's how I feel about this whole thing. Talk about what you think, and with that, this video is a wrap. I'll see you guys next time on another video. Bye-bye.